What's up, fam? Welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast. Today I'm joined with Drew FBA, who has done $4 million on Amazon. He just started this in really November of 2020. His numbers are already pretty good. And he's doing mainly online arbitrage, which is purchasing products from retail websites, and then selling them on Amazon. So welcome to the pod, brother. Excited to dive into your journey and see, how you got started and give some people some value.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, man. Excited.
And I paid for this intro, so I'm going to cut to the intro real quick.
Welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast. Hear the stories of Amazon sellers crushing it in the game and keep up with the latest strategies that are working. Sit back, relax, and remember, if you truly try and work really hard, you will make a ridiculous amount of money selling on Amazon.
But you actually have to try. A lot of people want this to be passive income. They see all the TikTok ads, they see the IG ads. They think it should be easy. Amazon automation popped off. They think this should be like a step 1, step 2, step 3, put in 5 hours a week. And that's not the case at all. You have to work really fucking hard to get results. Drew worked really hard to get results. And I actually gravitated towards your content because you kind of have like a non-bullshit approach to Amazon. And you cut down a lot of these beliefs that people have that it should be easy. That you should be able to do this. And you have a lot of interesting takes in general. So I'm excited to, dive into your story about how you got started, kind of teach people like a high level overview of step-by-step how they can replicate the results that you've been able to have. And then also you have some interesting perspectives. I saw you tweet recently about cash flow, like when to get rid of inventory that's not good, things like that. And, it's nice to have someone who, do you sell any programs or anything?
I used to run like a bit of a mentorship thing, but kind of that got it was too much work because I was on too many calls with the people because I wanted to see them succeed so bad. So I've kind of just like launched.
Yeah, it's definitely like an emotional thing. And there's nothing wrong with selling information, but there's definitely like I've noticed there's a difference between people who don't sell information and people who do in the way that they are attached to their inventory. And I think it's healthy to get the opinions of people who almost get 100% of their income from Amazon and not from an outside source because they're more incentivized to have healthy cash flow practices. So sounds like you do have some pretty good insights on that. So if you just want to take a step back and tell us how you got into this, what did you see, like a TikTok video, a YouTube video, like what made you think this was all possible? How did you get started?
No, so I'll tell kind of a little elongated story because I don't go into full detail, but it kind of makes more sense if I break it down from the beginning. When I was in freshman in high school, I started I would play like pretty high level basketball. So I was on all these like city teams where all these kids had nice shoes and that kind of stuff. I got into reselling shoes because they told me, you can sell these Jordans for $100 and like 300. And I was just mesmerized by that because I didn't want to get a job. That was ideally, I could just sell shoes on the internet. I got more and more into that, and then hit some like big easy drops and stuff. I wasn't like a sneaker kid, but I was kind of just here and there to do it to make money. And then I went to college. I would just sell Yeezys like here and there when I needed money to party. That was the only reason I was even doing it. I didn't have like a big inclination to get rich or anything. I wanted to run a business one day, didn't know where to go. And then kind of when COVID happened, it just like shoved me into that kind of thing because I didn't want to do anything I was doing. Like I didn't want to go get a job. I didn't want to go to grad school, and I was about to graduate college. So got into the reselling stuff, and then it went from like a little bit of money, like, $500-800 in the first month. I told my parents, like, I think I can do this full time. They're like, you're an idiot. You can't do that full time. Like, that's not enough money. And then it was like 2K, 3K, 4K. And then I just like popped off and did like a 25 grand month, like just a few months in, like a profit. So they were like, okay, he could probably do this full time. And then from there on out, just kind of like kept going into it. And yeah, I guess I always had to manage my cash flow, like you were talking about earlier, because it was my only source of income. And the one thing that throughout the whole journey, I didn't want to ever ask anybody for money. Like I didn't want to get it from the bank. I didn't want to get it from my parents. I didn't want to get it from anybody I knew. Like I wanted to be the guy that kind of like built it on my own and like figured it all out. So every time I lost money, I wanted to be responsible for that, push for it after that, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So what kind of products are you purchasing at the beginning, like with that 25K profit month? Obviously you don't have to like put exactly what it is, but like what types of sourcing were you doing?
Just pools. It was like weights and pools, the combo, because it was like when all that stuff was in demand. So it started off as like Clorox and that type of stuff, and then it was like pools, weights, and like PlayStations got mixed into there somewhere.
So were you driving around picking up the stuff? Okay.
Yeah. I would drive an hour one way, pick up pools. Like I would wake up at This was crazy. I was like depressed at this time because it was so difficult. I would wake up at 6 a.m., drive to one Walmart, pick up the pools in like a decently bigger city, drive back home, drop them off, list them on Facebook Marketplace and eBay, and then drive another hour that way, come back, do the whole thing. And then I would stay on the computer all day, like purchasing more pools, like OA, which is not really what I looked at it then. I was just like buying off of monitors and like, connections I'd made at the time. But yeah, I was just like working like 18, 20-hour days. And then I would wake up at 3 a.m. to try to buy Nintendo Switches at the time because it was like West Coast restocks, like all this different stuff. I was working like nonstop. Every hour of the day I was working when it started.
Gotcha. So then you took that 25K and then you started doing more OA like immediately after that, or did you keep doing RA for a while?
It was kind of a mix. But I didn't I guess know OA like traditionally like it is now, like buy from Walmart or buy from Kohl's and things like that, or find discount codes and do that. I just thought that you had to buy stuff that was out of stock on Amazon that was in demand. So I was doing any way to get those products. So whether it was going RA or if it was OA, it was just whatever they were in stock, I was trying to get them that way. And then later on in the future, I learned that, you can make this like an actual business if you don't just chase hot products all the time.
Gotcha. So what were you were doing other products where you're finding them that they were like out of stock on Amazon?
Yeah. Like just for monitors, like the connections I had, like, hey, there was like one thing, it was like a baseball bat play, and they were like, hey, buy these baseball bats, they're going for like 2x the profit, whatever it is. And I would just do that for my connections. But that stuff obviously dried up because the supply chain got better as time went on.
Gotcha. And then at what point did you kind of transition to more of the traditional online arbitrage?
It was probably about a year into like actually selling stuff. So 2021 was probably when I really hit the stride on that and started doing like, consistent, high 5-figure months, like revenue around that time. I don't know the exact number, somewhere in that time.
And during this whole time, are you like watching a ton of content on how to sell on Amazon?
Not really. No, I've never actually watched Amazon content, oddly enough.
Really?
Like and on Twitter, like I mute everybody. Like I just have never been a big consumer of it for some reason. I always watch like other business stuff, but I just learned the Amazon stuff from like Arbitrage Ops, which is like a big group that I joined that, and I kind of got enlightened on all that stuff.
Gotcha. When did you join that? Because they started what, 2021?
Yeah, I think early. I mean, I joined. I was like in there pretty early, probably like with the first year that they had it. I was in there.
Yeah, those are good guys over there. Soros.
Yeah, well, he's not a part of it anymore, but he did start it.
Yeah, but he started it, right? That was kind of his idea.
Yeah, him and the Crypto Charles guy.
Yeah. So what kind of tips would you have for people who like, they're looking at this like this might all be bullshit. I want to get started with Amazon. Like, what tips would you have for them just to get started and make their first few thousand?
Well, number one, just realize it's not bullshit. And then a lot of these guys claiming that they're making a lot of money. I mean, a lot of them are. Like a lot of people are making a lot of money. Let me be included. So I mean, realizing that and realizing that if you the hardest part of this whole business is just getting started and getting that first like $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 in sales. And then it literally all gets like easier. That the hardest part is when you're looking at all this from like a bird's eye view and you don't really understand what's going on. It's just taking the step. I mean, what's there to lose? You spend like $500, you spend $1,000 on product, whether it be retail arbitrage or online arbitrage, or even if you buy a course or you buy some type of thing like that's going to be worth it in the long run for you just figuring out, okay, I can make money here. So like, where do we go from there?
So what kind of like sourcing practices would you recommend? Because something else that I like that you said a while back was like, don't source where everyone else sources. Like if you're trying to find, products that everyone is talking about online, like those products are going to tank. So what kind of sourcing practices would you recommend in order to find product that's like not, everyone else is sourcing too?
Well, number one, if you're a beginner, is source stuff that you already know. If you're like a gym head and you found this content somehow, but you already know about supplements, about protein, about whatever it is, that needs to be the stuff that you source because you already know about those websites. You know about GMC or about Vitamin Shop or about all like the local ones even in your place. You might have a supplement shop that runs 50% off here and there. Like that could be where you get the RA products. So if you're into makeup or if you're into food, whatever it is, just source what you already know. I feel like that's the easiest way for somebody to get started. You don't need any kind of crazy method. You just need to do what you're already doing, which is just finding products for cheap, which you're probably doing in your day-to-day life anyways.
And how much of a hustle is this for you? Because you're online arbitrage. I know there's like lots of order cancellations, things like that, where it's wholesale. It's like you just place big orders. How much of a hustle is this for you, where you have to order like 10 units here, 10 units there, deal with order cancellations, things like that? Like, how do you manage that as like a one-man show?
I mean, it's been tougher in the past. Nowadays, it's like I got all this knowledge in my brain of like what cancels and where it doesn't
Yeah.
cancel. You can kind of just tell from websites where they're going to cancel or not. But really, you just got to try a bunch of websites and you get the gist of like what kind of sites cancel, what don't.
Yeah.
What's going on like that.
And are you doing like a lot of replens then?
Not really. I'm not a big believer in replens. I mean, people have told me that and everything, but I just think that replens are kind of like a magical thing people talk about, especially if you're talking about, you buy them from Walmart every here and there, and they're going to last you all year. To me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense because everyone promotes like the storefront stocking or reverse sourcing. So like if one person finds yours and somebody finds them, that replen's cooked. So, and I've never heard of a lot of people just running big stores off replens. I talked to guys that do over 10 million a year, and I've never heard of people having like consistent 08 replens.
Right. You just constantly looking for new leads then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And do you have like virtual assistants that help you out or anything?
I have one. She just does a few tasks for me, but I kind of I worked her out as time went on because I just realized I don't really need a lot of people to run the operation that I run. I know where I can buy stuff from. I know where I can make big purchases. I can deal with all the admin stuff on my own. I mean, there's probably ways I could optimize, keeping track of everything a bit better, but overall, yeah, I've got a pretty good system down for it because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah. So what's your sales goal this year?
2.5 mil is probably ideal. I did around 2 mil a little over last year. 2.5 mil would be great, but
are you comfortable sharing like margin on that?
Yeah, it's really tough to share like the actual margin. I would say like gross probably around like 15, but as many people know, everyone's gross is not their actual profit. So that's not even close to what my net is. And then when you take out, your salary, if you run an S corp, like it's all so complicated. But if I had to guess, it's probably somewhere around 8 to 10% net. But I think that's so tough. The big thing I have on it, as long as you have more money in your bank account every month than you have like on your credit cards, it's like you're doing well. And you need to know you're not losing money. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So what, like doing 2.5 million a year, at least that's your goal. What does that look like? What's your day-to-day look like as an Amazon seller doing 2.5
million? Yeah. Usually I'm just waking up and like checking replens, I guess, like things that have sold out just to see if I can rebuy them. I mean, ideally, that's the easiest way to spend your money. Usually that doesn't happen, though. I'll get on, source the sites I already know, source the brands I already know, do whatever methods I'm kind of feeling in the moment. And then if I'm feeling like I didn't spend a lot of money that day, if I find a good sale or whatever, I'll spend hours and hours looking at that. But if not, I'll just kind of move on and not worry too much about it. Try to like send some leads to other people. I'm big on like networking with other people, obviously. So send some leads to others. If they send some back, that's fine. If not, that's fine as well. Just keep going like that.
Gotcha. So are you like in like group messages? You just DM a few people? Are you like, and how many people would you say it is? Like 5 people or?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that like, it's obviously where I started that mentorship thing. What happened with that was the people that stuck around ended up getting so good at doing what I teach that they're kind of like my network now because they're like, I can only spend $1,000. Like what about, I was like, I'll spend the rest of the money and that's fine. So now we kind of all share leads in there and then that helps. And then I have a few guys like outside of that I talk to, but those are bigger.
So would you say like most of your product is purchased off of like big name brand websites, or are you purchasing from like smaller, lesser known websites?
These days it's from big name websites. Yeah. It's all about really catching a sale at the right time, or, if you have rewards points on a website, like optimizing those to where, you can get the maximum amount of profit on your items. I think a lot of people, they'll get like $1,000 in rewards on a website and they'll spend it all on like one product to make that product free. So they have like all the profit. That's never how I've looked at that kind of stuff. I'm like, well, how can I get this to make like 30 to 40% ROI from these rewards? So I can like accumulate more in the future instead of getting the profit off the bat, and you get the credit card points, you get the cash back. There's like different ways you can do that instead of just, okay, now I get free product, I get free profit. There's just better ways you can do it long term.
So how are you tracking like the the cycle of the sales on these websites? Like how do you know when it's a big sale versus like a medium-sized sale? Like how are you in touch with all that?
I wish I had some like applicable knowledge on that, but really it's just,
Mhm.
I mean, as you know, probably too, as you see these products like over and over and over, you know how much a product's worth, like,
Yeah.
you know, how much that shoe's worth, you know, how much whatever it is. So then, you know, well, if it's now it's this price, then, you know, you're good to go. And I just made a tweet about this the other day. A general rule of thumb for anybody that's new at this stuff is if you're seeing something at 50% off MSRP, you're probably pretty good to buy it. Like if you don't have to look at the keep or whatever, if you're 50% MSRP, like you're pretty safe. There's a hard chance that you'll lose money on that because even stuff going for MSRP, you're still going to make money at 50% off. So the closer you can get it to 50 or the farther you can get below 50, you're like almost guaranteed making money there.
Right. What's your, I guess, 3 or 4 year plan? Like where would you like to see yourself in terms of sales, profit? Let's just say 4 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't want to be doing OA like I am now.
Yeah, I guess that was a better question to ask. Like, what's kind of, I guess, what's your trajectory just with business overall? What do you see yourself doing?
Well, luckily, as you were talking about the cash flow stuff, I think I've got a lot of cash on hand. I've got a lot of inventory on hand. I run a healthy business, so I would hopefully like to move that cash into other ventures. I don't want to quit OA really because I just think I know too much at this point. It's just easy money. But I don't see myself trying to grow a $10 million, $50 million store. That's like a huge company. And it's a company that you can't exit. Like I guess some people claim you can, but it's very difficult to exit a business like that. So I don't see that too much in my future. Mainly, I'd like to start a private label brand. Hope that'll be successful.
Yeah.
I'd like to do more education.
Yeah, I think a lot of the knowledge that you have now would be transferable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then, you know, whatever it might be, real estate or, you know, whatever it can be in the future, maybe personal brand stuff. I don't really know, but kind of taking it year by year. You know, if OA is doing this well, that's cool with me for now.
Yeah. So how big do you see Amazon being for you just in the next few years? What do you think like would kind of be your cap?
OA was
Yeah.
probably not too much farther than I am now. The only reason is because I think that to get to those big numbers, even over 4 or 5 mil, you kind of have to take on loans. You have to take on debt. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I just don't know enough about it at the moment. And I'm not confident enough myself to deploy that capital in a way that, I don't know, that makes sense. Maybe I should be, but I'm just not big on taking debt. So I don't see myself.
Are you a Dave Ramsey fan?
No, actually, I'm not. I think that guy's a loser, but I just I do like the concept, but I don't like to listen to that guy. But yeah, just kind of.
Where are you from? Out of curiosity.
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Okay, you're not too far from Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
Originally from where?
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Okay. Yeah, you kind of sound like you have a little bit of a Southern accent.
I get that sometimes. Everybody online is not from the South, so I kind of sound worse.
Yeah. It depends on where I go. Sometimes people say I have a Southern accent if I go up north. So, not a Dave Ramsey fan, but you also don't like to take on debt. It's an interesting combo.
Yeah,
I think that's good though. I think a lot of people, they get into the game and they're just like 0% credit cards. They just want to, you know, run it up. They're like, oh, I can make 20% ROI. It's interesting that you've seen so much success, you know, turning profitable product, but you're still anti-debt, which I think is actually a good approach to have. I think it's better than the reverse.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys obviously to become massively successful in this because I mean, I see myself as relatively successful. And maybe people at zero would see 2.5 mil and think that was crazy, but it's really not. Like, it only takes a few years to get there. But to get to those like massively successful like companies, the do OA, you just like have to have debt. Like that's the only way for you to spend that much money. You know, how are you going to spend like 200 grand or whatever unless you started with that much, like a lot of capital? There's just no way you can deploy as much capital as you need because the turnover on Amazon is just not fast enough when you get to the point where you're ordering product to a prep center, then they're prepping it, they're shipping it out, you're waiting for that kind of stuff. And then sometimes you even want to hold the product longer to get the best price. Like it's just too difficult to turn your money over as quick as you can when you're starting.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and with OA, it's like out of all the business models on Amazon, OA is probably the quickest turnover.
Yeah.
It may be retail arbitrage before, but private label, wholesale, you have to wait for that product to come from overseas. Lead time with OA, you usually have like a 3 to 7 day lead time to the prep center.
Yep.
Which is like incredibly fast.
Yeah, I don't know where the debt stuff comes from really. That I don't. It's funny, yeah. You'd think that I'd be a big Dave Ramsey fan or like one of those guys online that talk about no debt, but I
Mhm.
just don't. I don't know. My parents never were like in debt. They never really taught me about debt or credit cards or anything. So I've just kind of taken that
Mm.
with me. Like it's done fine so far. Like I live a good life. I make a lot of money in the business. Like why would I need it? Unless I just want to be like mega rich with mega risk. That's not really. You know, I'm trying to do.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about a little bit of advice when it comes to cash flow. When should you get rid of inventory? When should you say goodbye to it? Instead of just like, on paper, maybe you want to be profitable on every single product. That's what a lot of people want to do. They're like, oh, I purchased this for 20. I need to at least get $25 back in order for it to be worth it for me. But at what point is it okay for you to take a negative ROI, maybe even negative 50%, negative 100%? You're losing money, but you're getting cash back in your bank account. Can you talk a little bit about like the cash flow cycle when you not tank inventory, but when you just what's the word for you? When you get rid of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the past, I've usually done if it's over 180 days old, then I'll just get rid of it no matter what, no matter how much money I have to lose. And I still do that with some products, but now it just depends more on what I bought it for and if that price can be, bought for again. So if I bought something and maybe it tanked because it was a really big sale, I might just wait that out or just
Hmm.
wait for because I know it's going to recover because I know
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
can get it at that price again. So
Right.
that's the main thing. But if you're beginning, I mean, you should be like ripping through stuff. I believe if you don't have much money and you made a bad buy, it's better for you to lose money and get the money back than it is for you to just sit on it because that's a hundred
Hmm.
percent loss when you're just sitting on it until it
Yeah.
sells.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's not going to sell. Like that's the hard like reality of it. You think that you made a good buy, but it's just not a good buy, and it's never going to
Hmm.
be a good buy. You just might as well get rid of it. You got your cash back. You got that kind of stuff. Take that as the W, and then just take the L on the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. You said something like if you're making $10,000 to $15,000 profit each month and you have cash flow issues, you're doing something wrong. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I don't watch much Amazon content, but I'll just like
Yeah.
randomly pull up like these podcasts and just play them in the background. I hear people say like, yeah, I'm making 15, 20, 25 grand a month or whatever in Amazon, but I'm running into like cash flow issues. It's like, dude, how are you making that much money in your business? Your business isn't growing, so you're making consistently that much money, and then you
Hmm.
don't have any money. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. It's because everyone's either lying or they just don't know, which is
Yeah.
the big reality of what happens around like this space. But if
What
you
do you mean
were
they don't know?
they just don't know their numbers. They just don't.
Okay.
They think they're making 20K, but they're making the bad buys. They're making things like that. And then, to expand on that tweet, I said, man, it's really easy to say you're making that much money, like tweet it out or post on Instagram, and then have all these people say you're doing so good, you're doing so good, just dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. But like, you don't really know what's going on in your business. And if you really
Mhm.
looked at your numbers, you realize you're not making any money, or you're making way less than you think, or you're making too many bad buys. And it's just so common. I see it constantly. Or people that think they're making, I just made like 80 grand last year. And then all of a sudden they get completely wiped out. Like it's like a crash out is what they call it. How do you make 80 grand and you burn it all? Like that's
Mhm.
not, you didn't make that much money. There's just no way that that's what happened. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think some people
So
just get,
what do you think the biggest advice, if you could help those people out, what do you think you would tell them? Like what kind of mistakes do you think those people are actually making in their business?
oh, I mean, unfortunately, the biggest one would be get off social media because I think that if you weren't tweeting and putting it on Instagram all the time, or then you would know your numbers because that's all you would care about is your
Yeah,
business, and that's how I was
yeah.
for years. I mean, I was on social media, but like I really only had this, and like you said, I didn't like post any programs or anything, so I only had this, so I had to care about how much money I was
Yeah,
making,
yeah.
how good I was. But if you get in the situation where you're down on your cash flow, then you just need to reevaluate what you're doing. You can't just repeat the same stuff over and over. You maybe need to source differently. You need to liquidate more inventory. You need to slow your business down. Maybe instead of seeing the green percentage go up every month, maybe you should see the red percentage. Maybe you should go down a little bit just to make sure that you actually have money to invest in like
Mhm.
better products when the time comes around.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really interesting concept. Nobody wants to see that though. Nobody wants to see their profit go down, but in reality, they're getting more cash in their bank account because they're liquidating inventory that maybe would never sell at a profit. You know,
Yep. You just have to
Honestly, that's
completely.
a mistake I made last year. I was like, I'm not going to sell inventory unless it's a 20% ROI. And I should have just accepted, hey, this might be the most I'll ever get for this product if I sell it right now. So I might as well just sell it right now, you know?
You have to just completely take the emotion out of the game. Like that, which I felt victim to that in the past as well. I've held products too long. I've been worried about growing every month, but this year my months have been almost dead stable of just like up 10% or down 5% or up 7%. Like I haven't had a drastic change in any of my months this year, really, and that's like fine. Like this month might end, this won't end in the green, but like if next month ends in the red minus 20%. I don't care. I'm building up more cash. Maybe I'll take some L's here and there to have the cash for Q4. So I'm not trying to just grow every month so I can show everybody how like good I am. Like you have to focus on how much money you're actually making. That's why you're running the business, is making money.
Mm-hmm. And what are you currently using to like track all your profits and everything?
I use Inventory Lab, and then I have a bookkeeping service I use as well. I get an accountant. So Inventory Lab, and then whatever they send me as well. That's usually how I'm running it.
And so when you say negative 20%, what you mean is you're selling product at a loss depending on what the buy cost was.
Yeah, or what I mean really is like, there's the number. It's like from last month, it's green or it's red. Well, if I'm down 20% from last month, if I did like whatever last month, I'm doing less this month, that's fine. Or if my profit's, a few $1,000s less than it was the month before, that's not a big deal to me, because I might be liquidating inventory that's just not good. I might be taking losses, so it obviously knocks money off my profit, but like that's fine. I've just got more cash in my bank account. I think the lowest month I did this year, I had the most money available. So like,
gotcha.
It's just kind of how it works. Instead of just constantly trying to grow, sometimes you need to take a step back and like reevaluate what you're doing.
Yeah, totally. And then what are you doing for reprints? How are you tracking that?
Really, I go to the inventory tab every day of like the Amazon. I don't have a software or anything for it. I just do that. And then I go to the inactive and then the like out of stock or whatever, and then just look at what's just went out of stock in the last few days, and then just replenish it if I need to. But these days that's so like far away. Like I never even ever replenish anything. In the past I have, but I'm more so buying bulk product from good sales or wherever the opportunity is. So it's hard to replenish it again.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's hard to replenish because like the sale's not there anymore. That's what I realized last year. So last year was my first year doing OA. I did 300,000 in sales from it, and I was so pumped for the replenish aspect. I was like, I'm gonna get so many replens. Like this is gonna be my business model. Replenish. Dude, like literally, I swear, like 1 out of 30 items I could replenish. Now, if you included items that I could replenish when the next sale came around, that number would be a little bit higher. But dude, like finding replenishes was extremely difficult. Now with wholesale, I can replenish practically everything.
Yep.
It's just a different game. But with OA, it's extremely. I guess it depends on how you source OA. But if you're sourcing OA based on like sales and different things like that on websites, replenishing is extremely difficult.
Yeah, I went through my 100 most profitable products last year on Inventory Lab, just sorted them by ASIN, and not one of them I could replenish. So by 100 things I sold profitably, the most profitably, not one thing, either the price had tanked or I couldn't get it at the price that I got it before. So that kind of changed my whole perspective on it. I realized I need to buy deeper when I find good stuff, because I would sell, I had some stuff I sold like 600 units of last year, but I probably should have bought like 2,000 units, because in reality, I was never going to get that again. And I still can't get it again. And that likely the number that was, whatever I bought it for, I'll probably never get it like that again. And then you have to be able to take advantage of that stuff, because OA, you can find sales that are better than wholesale prices. There was something I just bought recently where I sold to a friend, and he had a wholesale account with this company, and he goes, "Dude, these are 30% cheaper than wholesale. Buy as many as you can." So, right.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, because like what you realize is like some of these people, they're just trying to liquidate it too. Some of these retail websites. Sometimes they're just trying to get more traffic. They're trying to compete with Amazon. Amazon's got great prices. Like there's so many different variables going on there. Walk us through what an ideal product purchase looks like for you. Like out of the best product purchases you've ever had, what's an ideal product purchase? Like how much spend does it look like? What's the sales rank of the item, sales per month of the item? In an ideal world, what are you super excited for when you're making a product purchase?
First on the sales rank, that can all be dependent. Depends on the variations, obviously, but I mean, the lower the better. Clearly, something that some that, like I said, you can't buy for that price again. Like some that I intuitively know that maybe there's an error with the website. Maybe they're offering 50% off that product and they shouldn't be. That was my biggest profitable thing from last year was it was 40% off on Eastbay when they were like closing down, but they didn't mean to have that product on sale. I just accidentally had it in my cart when I put the thing in. I was like, oh, well, this is good. So I bought like a ton, like spent like 80 grand on a specific item. So something that where maybe there's an error where not everyone sees it and it's never going to happen like that again, that it might be fixed tomorrow. So however fast it moves, and then if I can buy it for that price again, and the better those two things can be, the deeper I'll go on whatever product, and I'll spend whatever amount of money on that situation because I know now after looking at all this, after doing it for so long, it's a good chance I'll probably never get it again.
Mm-hmm. And what's the most you've ever spent on one purchase? Like on one ASIN?
One ASIN, probably that sale last year. I probably spent like, it had to be 70 or 80 grand. But I mean, this year recently, I spent like probably around 45, 50 grand on something. But it was across multiple ASINs, but it was just a really good sale. I've never, in one cart, maybe like 20K or so though. It's just something that don't let you buy that much. So, ideally you buy a lot when that happens.
Yeah. So how much of your sourcing are you trying to expand, like to different websites, different categories versus like hunkering down on what's working for you?
It's probably like 50-50 really. I'm always trying to do new stuff because I do realize that if you expand out into what everybody else isn't doing, all you have to do is find one thing that no one else is doing that you can take advantage of and completely just like cook off that. Like there was a website, I think it was last year, the year before, and they would send coupon codes to you after you would buy. And I was buying like shoes off here. But this website's like shut down now. But they would send coupon codes, and I'd accidentally put two in my cart that I had already used, and they still let me use them. So I was getting like $4,000 worth of shoes for like $2,000, $1,000, however many coupons I had. So finding little things like that can take you really far, obviously, because you can just abuse it. And there was no one using the website because the order numbers would come in like 5,485. And 2 days later, it'd be like 5,486. I'd be like the only person ordering off this website, just like taking all the shoes from these people. But they never caught on to it. Well, I mean, eventually got shut down. But, finding little things like that, being exploratory and trying to find little coupon codes or find websites that no one's shopping from. I mean, you can run up a quick 10, 20K profit off something just because no one else knows about it. And how are they going to find it? Because it's not like somebody can see what you're doing and do it. It's not like clear as day like a lot of the stuff may be.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what's your game plan for Q4? Is Q4 like, is that like a big part of the year for you? I mean, obviously it's more sales, but do you kind of like focus on that part of the year, or is it just more of like a boost for you?
Yeah. I mean, I hope to make as much money in November and December as I've made the whole rest of the year. All money. I mean, ideally, it'll be tough because like I said before, I don't want to take on debt. And I think it'll be really tough for me to get the numbers that I want to without taking on a loan or something, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll shoot for the stars and you come up a little short. That's fine with me. Ideally,
so you don't want to take on debt this Q4, or you're open to it?
It depends. I talk to some guys that keep telling me that I know what I'm doing. I need to, but they haven't got me over the edge yet. So we'll see. But we'll see. I mean, maybe there'll be an opportunity. It might be like a game time decision. Like I have access to a lot of capital, probably like 400 grand in like credit or loans or whatever it is. So if something comes up, and like I've said it before, like if it's that good of
but
a
you're
price,
choosing not to use any of that right now.
Yeah, because I don't need it. I mean, I don't like if I needed it maybe, but I just have the cash, I have the credit, and they all just I've never.
So it's just you and one VA running this whole thing, and the VA is not really doing much sourcing.
None. Yeah,
just more like admin type stuff.
Yeah, at this point, like nothing. But yeah, she like put some tracking numbers into prep centers. That's about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, just the sourcing's me, which I had sourcers in the past with the VAs, but they just didn't produce what I needed them to. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that they weren't finding good stuff, but they find so much bad stuff that like it just counteracts.
Right.
Yeah.
Who are your most inspirational entrepreneurs? Like what books do you read? Like who inspired you the most when it comes to business?
I don't read any books actually. That's
really?
Funny thing. Yeah, I haven't read a book since college, so I'm not. But I watch like a ton of podcasts. Like I watch a lot of Hormozy. I like a lot of Tate, which I know a lot of people don't like Tate, but I do think that Tate.
I think anybody who doesn't like Tate just hasn't listened to him that much.
Yeah, they haven't listened to any long form. I mean,
He's actually like, he's got some really unique ideas that I've never heard before, and I've only heard him say them, and I think that's special. There's tons of business books you read, and it's very rare that I come across like a new business idea. Even Hormozy. I love Hormozy, and I think he's very articulate, but most of his ideas, in my opinion, came from Navarro Ravikant.
Mm-hmm.
But I love hearing them from both sides. I've heard a few unique ideas from Hormozy, but with Andrew Tate, I've heard like some very unique ideas when it comes to like his perception on God, business, and just a few other things that I've just never heard anyone have that take before, and that's special when people can do that.
Yeah, I think it just comes from experience. I mean, there's nothing that teaches you more than just like your own life experience. I think that's why I resonate with Tate so much, is because I'd never read, and he talks about how he never reads books. Like, he just lives life and he learns all the stuff in the books anyway. So it's like, that's kind of how I've felt that I've done it. Like, I'll do, like I just learned recently, the Profit First book. Like, I learned about that, and I already do that system, like, kind of. And I've never read.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I feel like that the perception you have on debt, I feel like you're very lucky you have that, because it's a lesson that if you don't have that already naturally, like you do, it's a very hard lesson to learn. Like, the teacher that teaches that lesson is a very difficult lesson, which is that, debt is bad. And just imagine, the test you have to go through to learn that is very difficult. For you to naturally have that just means that you don't have to go through that test, whereas everyone else does. So that means everyone else has to take on debt and have it not go correctly in order for them to know that debt's bad. So it's cool that you have that perception already. And maybe you'll change your perception and the lesson will be taught to you a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's probably harder to unlearn it than it is to learn it, hopefully. But maybe I will. It just depends. But that I've never heard anybody say it like that. That is interesting, that I haven't learned like that I shouldn't take debt, but I still know this stuff. I guess it's just
some of those things are natural, man. I think there's a lot of natural innate things that humans have that we don't really consider that are natural. I think the desire to travel is natural, and a lot of people don't talk about it. I think the willingness to take on debt versus not take on debt is kind of natural too. I think there's a lot of things like that. Entrepreneurship, I think, is natural. Certain aspects of leadership, fighting, there's a lot of different things that just come naturally to some people. And then for other people, it's just like, I can never do that,
Yep, 100%. And on the business guys, really, aside from those guys, I'm not too like, I don't look at a ton of like those guys, like the top business guys. I guess I can't even name a lot of them really. There's a few guys in the Amazon space that I look up to a lot. Soros early on, when I first learned about it, he was a huge one. Obviously, he's like, I feel like he's the mentor to a lot of people in this space, like an aspirational person. And then, I've met a lot of guys through joining arbitrage ops that are, very aspirational. So those are kind of the guys I look up to and kind of, seek knowledge from.
When you listen to Alex Hormozy, do you think about your Amazon business? Do you think about your personal brand? Do you think about like a future venture? What do you kind of focus on when you listen to his content?
The future venture, I'm just watching those guys to learn for the future, and personal brand too. But I feel like none of those guys, a lot of that stuff can't really apply to Amazon that much. It's like this business is way different than a lot of other businesses because one, we don't do any marketing, we don't do any sales, and we're not creating anything. So like, who are we going to listen to about like maybe the best person to listen to would probably be some kind of coupon, like mom or something, maybe somebody that's like good at finding cheap stuff. But I mean, like there's certain things that I could probably listen to him about debt. Maybe that'd be a good thing to listen to him on. But aside from that, I don't think that you can learn too much from it. Operationally, maybe, but where I don't have a big team, can't really learn anything about that. There's not too much. I think those guys, it relates, crossover.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's definitely some operational and just like general business practices, what to do with your money, stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. There's not too much branding. I think that's why so many Amazon sellers gravitate towards a personal brand, because there's unless you're private label, we don't have to worry about the brand at all. Like, there's Amazon listings, they have traffic, we sell on them, So.
Yeah. I think one thing I've thought more about this of why the Amazon community is kind of so big, and maybe other communities are big too, but I feel like the Amazon one and the reselling one in general is like one of the biggest sub niche communities like that I've seen when it comes to like online money. Like I don't see other ones. And I think it's because once you start doing this for a long time, you probably lose a lot of purpose where you probably gain it in other businesses. So like if you're creating a product or you're like offering a service or whatever, you gain purpose, of doing certain things. Like, I mean, I know you have the go-to lister and things like that. That probably gives you purpose because you see other people like succeed. Like that gives you your drive every day. But it's hard in this business because it's just numbers on a screen. Like you're not really helping anybody's life at all. Like you're just overcharging people on Amazon. So I think that people maybe lose. That's kind of why I got on social media. It's like you kind of lose your, like, what am I doing all this for? Just a bunch of money. So you just want to have like a better purpose in life. I think that's probably why this community is so big because
there's no face to your brand. There's no brand to your efforts. Maybe on the supply side, but if you're doing online arbitrage, the suppliers don't even like you.
Yep.
They want to cancel on you. In wholesale, at least, like you have relationships with those guys and those can build. But if you're just flipping stuff from thrift stores or from retail stores, they don't value you too much because they're all about their brand and you're taking some of their best products and reselling them on Amazon. And then Amazon obviously doesn't care about you at all. I mean, they've suspended me for the last month.
I was about to say, you probably know that better than anybody.
It's just crazy. You put so much time and effort into it, and then they're willing just to pull the rug on you at any point in time. So I feel like the community is huge because we can hold each other up and we can connect with each other, and we're all in this together. And Amazon doesn't give us direct relation with the customer, and so it's kind of refreshing to be able to talk with people.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's why all this kind of happens and why people are more like into the personal brand stuff because you got to find some like sense of community and sense of purpose. Eventually you can't just like live your life. I guess maybe you could, but the hustle dries up eventually a little bit. I'd say guys that have been doing this for 10 years probably aren't scanning products from retail stores the same like hustle and drive they were 10 years ago. You move on, you find, you've made all this money. Now, what do you want to do with it? How do you want to affect others? Things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's like so many sub niches of Amazon too. Like there's eBay people, eBay to Amazon people. There's like the RA, there's a huge RA community. Then there's an online arbitrage community. There's a whole wholesale community. There's private label. Like there's so many people making money on Amazon in so many different ways. Like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine how many millionaires that Amazon's made. That it's got to be an absurd amount just throughout. Even people like selling info or sell like whatever it could be, like related to Amazon. They probably have made more millionaires than any other company has.
Yeah. That's why it pisses me off. Like when people say there's not opportunity on Amazon, I'm like, are you really going to say that? Like, how much time have you put in? Have you put 40 hours a week in? Have you put as much time as you put into a job? And the truth is, most people don't. Like, even my friends who are really crushing it in this space, they're doing so much social media and other shit. I look at their Amazon business. I'm like, how much time are you actually putting in that? And most of them are putting in like less than 15 hours a week.
Yep.
And they're still getting results,
Yeah, but it's like front loaded. You put in all the work at the beginning. If people can just realize that, like at the beginning, just work yourself into like you do not want to work anymore. If you'll just do that for a few months, all that knowledge is just going to compound in your head, and then you don't work like you just work way less. Like you just don't have to work as much anymore because you've learned so much stuff from just putting in all that grind at the beginning.
Yeah, 100%. What's your opinion on the fastest way to go from 0 to 100,000 in sales in any amount of time? Let's try to make it as quickly as possible. What's your advice for that? Before we get into that, real quick, I want to talk about go-to lister. If I can get this going, it's been a while. Had food poisoning this weekend, guys. My brain's kind of foggy. Let me figure out how to do the screen share real quick. All right, let's get this. So, Drew, while you're thinking about that answer, I want to show go-to lister real quick. I know that we've been talking a little bit about replans, and we also talked about tracking your profit. So, go-to lister shows you your profit on a daily basis. Go-to lister is an app where it helps you list products on Amazon. Your prep center can use it. You can use it. It's factually the fastest listing software on the planet. And as you can see here, you don't want to track just what your sales are each day because your sales don't mean shit. Your profit's really what's important at the end of the day. And so you can see 2,200 on August 7th is the total sales, but the profit was 1,400. So this shows you after how much you pay for the product, which was 4,000 for the last 30 days. 8,000 in Amazon fees. This is 19,000 total profit. So we have 32,000 total sales. what was documented so far was 45,000. This is my friend's account, so we'll have to edit this out. We'll have to add more buy cost. He does not have all of his buy costs updated. He's probably closer to $10,000 in total buy cost. These Amazon fees are 100% accurate. This is 8,000 in total fees. So his true profit comes out to 19,000. I always say this: you want to make sure your gross profit's high as an Amazon seller, because if your gross profit's high, you have more room to pay for virtual assistants. You can pay for prep cost. It's going to increase your overall cash flow, because if your gross profit's higher, that means more money's coming in your bank account. At the end of the day, the most important thing is your net profit, how much you're taking home. But if you can keep your gross profit high, you're more likely to have a higher net profit as well. So this is just a quick glimpse of how your business is doing overall. And then you can easily create a batch. Click on create batch here, and you can send a shipment to FBA fairly easily. And in addition, we did talk about replens briefly on this podcast, but this is a brand new thing we have. All you need to do is update 2 reports from GoToLister: the items listed and your items sold. These are easily downloadable from GoToLister. And then what it does is it sorts which items you need to buy more of. And you remember, we said half the time you can't even find, items that are out of stock. They might not be in stock again, but at least you should know this. This is a 30-day forecast of what items you should have in stock based on what's sold. So GoToLister has your sales history. It has the items listed, and it'll tell you what items you should buy more of based on those 2 metrics. So this makes sure you have a 30-day stock supply of all the inventory listed. So don't run out of stock. Keep your profit margins high. Use GoToLister to list your products. We help you list products. We help you price products intelligently. We show you what your profit is. You can go to GoToLister.com and get a free trial today. Back to the pod. Drew, what's the fastest way to get to 100K in sales?
I would say it has to be RA. I mean, that's the biggest thing I would recommend is just go into retail stores and scan as much as you can. I think it's probably the quickest turnover on your money, because you can list that stuff FBM, FBA, whatever you want to do. And then move into OA. But at 100K, you can probably do 100K pretty quick with RA. I've had a few guys that I talked to that have got there pretty much solely on RA. So that's what I would recommend. It's just scan stuff from stores, because it's almost at that point, you don't need to know anything. You just need to have the work ethic to do it. Because if you scan all these different stuff in the clearance section, you'll just slowly learn the trends. You'll meet the managers, as long as they don't care that you're there, which a lot of times in store, the managers do like you because you're helping them get sales every day. So that kind of thing, I would just, if I had to restart now, it'd be almost totally RA and just grind it until I can't grind anymore.
Gotcha. What's your opinion on merchant fulfilled versus FBA?
I like it a lot seasonally, like times like now, obviously back to school, and then Q4. But what I've noticed recently is I think that the newer accounts, it's a tougher time for them to get the buy box FBM over FBA. I don't know if that might be anecdotal, but I've just noticed that with some new people I've been helping. Maybe it's just due to their shipping times or something like that. But FBA is pretty safe. But if you're short on cash and you're trying to turn your money over quicker and you don't want to take on any risk at products sitting at Amazon, maybe you'd rather have the product at your house. So if it goes wrong, you can sell it on Facebook Marketplace, sell it on eBay, whatever it is. I think FBM is a good plan there. And a lot of times you make more money with FBM anyways. So, yeah.
Gotcha. I got an interesting question for you. And this one might put you on the spot, but what philosophies or what takes do you have on Amazon that you think a lot of people don't have?
Probably a ton of them, really. I'm always talking about stuff that I think
feel like you do. And I feel like I'm not asking you all the questions for them. That's why I want to ask you that question.
Yeah, maybe it'll spur some good ones. I think one thing that people commonly say is, when you're at 100, to do 10K a month, to get to 40K a month, all you got to do is just do more of what you're doing. That's kind of the truth, but a lot of the times it's not either. It comes with a lot more issues because, like you asked, what is my 5-year plan? I mean, if I'm doing 2.5 mil now, why would I not want to do 7 mil? Can I just keep doing what I'm doing? Well, it's a lot more difficult than that. You need to hire out more people. You need to keep track of metrics better. You have to take on debt. There's a lot of things. It's not as simple as just buy more stuff. That's the easy way people want to say it, but that's just not the reality a lot of the times. And then I don't really know about too much other stuff. Maybe you can spur an idea off of me here, but I feel like I go against a lot of the stuff guys say. But I'm just not hyper positive about a lot of this stuff. I'm very positive about Amazon. It's made me a lot of money. I think it can make anybody watching a lot of money. But I think there's just negatives that come with any business.
What do you think? Like one of the biggest myths would be that maybe a lot of people talk about.
The replant stuff. I mean, a lot of that, like the magical OA replants. I mean, that's just. It's tough. I mean, you can find them, but it's just like the biggest guys I talk to don't have like a catalog of like, oh, I'm going to buy off Walmart today. Here's on my replens. Like that's just not the case. And then it's easy. I mean, it's a simple business, but it requires a lot of hard work. And I think a lot of people make it where you just go in and you're going to scan your first item and make $50 off of it. It's just not the case. It's like a lot more difficult than that.
Are you doing more manual sourcing or reverse sourcing?
I'd never reverse source nowadays. I used to be a proponent of that, but I think it's a losing battle. I think when you're looking at stuff where you don't know where they got the product from, you don't know how long they've had it, you don't even know if they're making any money off of it. So I'm not a big fan of doing that. Manual sourcing is kind of my go-to. You suppress yourself with a lot of competition there. If you find something on accident, like there's no one that's going to find that. If you put the time in to find stuff, then like that's your edge right there.
So you have your websites you purchase from. You open those up every day. Are you going to the clearance sections? Are you purchasing from like regular sections? Like, can you kind of walk us through because you've probably gotten pretty good at this point, where you just know where to look.
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, I just type in like the brands that I like to sell and that I know a lot about. I'll just type in the brand and then sell. I mean, I don't sell much Nike anymore, so
you just do that like on Google or
on Google.
Okay.
And then once you get there, you can use your coupon extensions. I use Top Cashback, Rakuten, and Be Frugal. See if that takes me any like rabbit hole there. Maybe there's a coupon that's on one that's not on the other. I'll try that out. But just simply like going through random websites that pop up when you just Google the sale. I mean, that's pretty much enough there. And then if I notice maybe something's selling through, like if I sold a lot of a product one day, then I'll look up that brand. Or I'll try to see, well, I bought it from here. Let's see what they're doing now. See if there's another sale on that website. Kind of just like go in the flow of things. There's not like a set thing I do every day. I like to work in like momentum. I just let the momentum carry me as much as I can let it carry.
So how big of a deal is it for something to have a coupon code or some type of limited time discount? Like how big of a deal is that for you? Is that like almost like a necessary component? Is it like a red flag if you're like, oh, anybody can buy this at this price, therefore it's not protected, but if it's like a 24-hour sale, you're much more likely to go deeper?
Yeah, just the whole concept of it, I think this will like benefit a lot of people, is if you think that you can't get it that cheap again, that is like when you have to go deep. Now if you think maybe this product's like constantly on sale, there's always products like that are just constantly 20% off or 30% off or whatever. That's a little different than them being like a one-time 60% off sale, because even if the product tanks for 3 months, if you're still going to sell it for 100% ROI when it comes back, then that's fine. So I try to make sure if I can get the buy cost as low as possible, that's the best thing. So if that's either coupons or big site sales, whatever it is, just how do you get it as cheap as possible?
Makes sense. What's your prep center flow look? Are you using a prep center? Or are you prepping stuff yourself?
Yeah, I've been using prep centers for the last like 2 years. I don't even know how to make a shipment anymore, so I don't even know how to send a shipment in. But just prep center. It's like pretty simple. I've just added another one in just for seasonal opportunities. I have one on the West Coast, and I wanted to try out some East Coast stuff of stuff that maybe would take longer to check in. Or on the West Coast, I think the East Coast, I've heard that they have better check-in times. So that's kind of just an experiment. And to just have another prep center for Q4 just in case anything happens, to either of them.
Yeah, that's huge. I've noticed that East Coast it's had faster check-in, but I've noticed it has faster sell-through.
Oh, really?
Just because because so like the concept of buy box is really interesting. Like buy box doesn't really exist. Because if you're a West Coast customer, you'll see a West Coast buy box. And if you're an East Coast customer, you'll see East Coast, or if you're from the South, wherever. So there's more people that live on the East Coast. So if you get the East Coast buy box, you're going to sell more. And so if your items are located in facility centers or FBA centers on the East Coast, you're more likely to sell through, which I found that to be true for my items. You know, so like all these repricers, when they say you're in the buy box, what buy box are they speaking of? Do they have a VPN for the West Coast, East Coast? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I have a software myself, and I don't even know what buy box we compare it to. I should probably figure it out. But it's really interesting, you know.
I've never even heard or thought about that before, but that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's how the buy box works. I do that, but I didn't think about all these repricers that say you have the
yeah,
buy box with this. How does it? Yeah, how does it?
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it depends on. I don't know. I don't know if it depends on where the seller is or where the software is located, but it's showing one buy box, but I don't know if it's showing the most common buy box. Who knows? But
Yeah, I hope you're right about the sell through. I mean, if the East Coast is really giving me more buy box and faster check in times, like that'll be a whole game changer. That'll let me increase my business
it
a
would just
lot.
make sense, man. Because it's like, why are they gonna? They're not gonna have East Coast FBA centers be shipping more to the West Coast, and they're gonna keep it as close as possible. And there's more people on the East Coast, therefore you should get more sales. But I guess the argument could also be there's more sellers on the East Coast, so there's more supply. Who knows?
Yeah, I'll keep you updated with what happens.
Yeah,
That
yeah. Let me know if you
that,
figure anything out.
that could be massive for my business if I'm getting twice as fast sell through on some of this stuff because I have to plan pretty far out. You know how some prep centers, I mean, it takes like a month for my stuff to check in, so I can't just
Yeah.
see that a price is profitable right now. I have to see what do you think it's going to do in a month or two from now. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I'm viewing those buys.
And they're doing MF for you as well.
Merger fulfilled? No.
Yeah.
I don't do like any FBM. I did some last
Okay.
Q4 and I might do some this Q4, but I'm really just all OA to prep center FBA. That's kind of just how it all
But
runs.
isn't it OA like really difficult without FBM during Q4?
You just have to plan. That my plan
Yeah.
is at
I
the
mean,
end
like
of
you're doing these Black Friday deals and you're not trying to get them active like ASAP. You're just waiting for January then basically.
Yeah, it just depends on my buy cost. If something's like cutting it close, if it's like the only reason it's profitable is because it's Q4, then I'll probably skip out on something like that. But a lot of the times the Black Fridays are so good that they're going to run in January and February anyway. Maybe I'll make less money and the velocity won't be there, but I need inventory for January and February. So,
yeah. How heavy was this last Q4 purchasing for you, like during Black Friday?
I don't know if it was too heavy, but decent, I would say. Probably like 20, 30K on that day or so, but I'll spend it on some days anyway. So, yeah.
And then so you probably had a pretty big January then?
Yeah. January, I think, is my highest month of the year. I think I've only been downhill from there. Yeah. but that's just like kind of how it plays out, which I'm like more prepared this year. So last year in October, I started like mid-October for sourcing for Q4 and preparing for Q4 and then January and so on. And this year I'm going to be getting started, at the end of this month, beginning of September, because I was just kind of partying a lot, not paying attention to it. And I'm like, whoa, Q4 is here and I haven't been doing anything. So this year I'm way more like logged down.
So who do you party with now? Because you're out of college.
I have some friends like locally where I'm at.
Non-entrepreneur friends you just go out with.
Yeah, I have some like close. I only have like a few close friends because I just don't. You know how it is. Like it's tough to have like friends that don't relate to you on like anything that you do. I mean, sure, you have like all these hobbies, like eccentric hobbies. Like who are you going to talk to about them? They're not going to understand why you go out and dance and you run this company and all this stuff. So it's like you have to find people that you relate to, and it's kind of people that either I've grown up with or from college that I've circled back to or I've stayed friends with that like relate to what I do, have supported me through doing all this entrepreneurship stuff. And then like I'll have a friend come up for the weekend or whatever, and then or I'll just go out with a friend here, and then but that's about it. I'm just like duos usually, and then if they have friends, I'll go out with them.
Nice, yeah. As years have gone on, I've really built out my friendship network within entrepreneurship. Like some of my best friends I've met through business, whereas 4 years ago it wasn't like that.
Yeah, and I guess I don't have any like friends from like this business necessarily. I mean, I talk to a lot of guys online, but I think that a lot of guys just one thing I think people run into is you have entrepreneurship in common, but not a lot of other stuff in common. So like other stuff that I do in life probably isn't in common with a lot of these like Amazon sellers.
Yeah,
it's just
I think eventually you'll find some good Amazon friends. Like some of my best friends are Amazon sellers now, but like you're saying, a lot of them I don't relate to. But like Taylor Jones, he was a wrestler. I was a wrestler, and so we kicked it off there. Caleb Roth, the book flipper, he like loves to travel. I love to travel. All you need is like one or two other things outside Amazon, and y'all can be friends.
Yep.
Even just within business, you can be pretty good friends. But it's helpful to have at least one other thing, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's important. But I mean, I have some loyal friends by my side, so it's like whatever. You know, I'm not too big on like I have relationships in Amazon. That's kind of how it is. I don't have to like go out and party with these guys or anything. It'd be nice to have guys like you have that are my age and do that stuff. But I've also only been on social media heavy for the last like 6-8 months. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Time will tell.
I feel like meeting the people in person is huge too. Like if you ever go to any events, you'll meet people in person, and that's just like when it changes the whole vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you coming on, brother. Everyone can follow you at Drew FBA. Is that the exact handle on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter. I'm more active on Instagram these days. So if you want to catch my content there, I'm trying to be more active at least.
Cool. Go give him a follow, guys. His DMs are open for questions. If you guys haven't already, go check out GoToLister one last time.
The number one thing I love about it most is it helps me list and process my items that much faster. And as you know, if you want to grow your Amazon business, speed is the name of the game. If you're thinking about...
Me too.
What is it?
Did that just freeze up on you?
Yeah, at the end.
It froze up. Anyway, Steve was basically saying this is a badass software. You should go download it. You should go to GoToLister.com, set up a free account, 100% free trial, no contracts. We're good for listing books. We're good for listing other products. We show you profit analytics. We got the reclaim spreadsheet. So go ahead and go over there. Go to GoToLister.com, set up your free trial today. And much love, Drew. Thanks for coming on. Go give Drew a follow. Go ask him questions. And we'll talk soon, brother.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you.